is on the rise, and once again violence appeared in the streets of the city. Here now is an raw footage of the events that took place earlier this evening. The Commissioner's Office advises citizens.
ついに登場、ファイティングゲームの決定版、スーパーファミコン版、バットマンリターンズ。
コナミ。
Greetings, this is Reverend Paul, and this is Studio Chojin Raw. I hope everybody's doing well out there. I hope everybody is safe and everybody is healthy, and thank you for clicking on this video. Before we get to the topic of this week's video, I guess there's some business we should talk about first. So, June has passed, and I have uploaded 4 weeks of content. Well, I mean, I guess technically not so because I took 1 week off, but I did upload a video in May, so technically that is 4 weeks. So I think this is a good time to kind of reassess and, think about what's the best way to move forward. So let me know, do you enjoy these weekly Studio Chojin Raw videos? Do you want to see them continue? Would you rather I stopped making these and focused on the longer edited anime after show videos? Let me know what you think, because at the end of the day, these videos are supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be entertaining, so let me know what you want to see going forward. Also, last week, I posted the first teaser image from Studio Chojin's first comic, Breast Gladiators. It really is the most ridiculous title. The feedback I've gotten back so far has been pretty cool. So far, it seems like people like it, which is great. I was kind of worried what people were going to think about it. I wasn't sure if people were going to get it or they were going to think it was too weird. But overall, the reaction has been really positive, and that's really cool because it really inspires me to keep going and to keep working on it. And I hope to have some pages up very, very soon so you guys can check it out. And once again, if you're interested in my artwork, if you like the Breast Gladiators teaser image, be sure to follow the Studio Chojin Twitter page so you can have all the breast assist action of Breast Gladiators. And people have also been asking me, what is the tone of the comic going to be? Is it going to be a comedy? Is it going to be action? Is it going to be a hentai? And the answer to that is it's going to be a high fantasy action manga with a lot of comedy elements. I feel like there has to be some comedy to it because, you're dealing with these giant tittied gladiator barbarian girls, so you have to have a little bit of a sense of humor about it. It's a ridiculous concept, so we need to embrace that. I also love taking absurd concepts seriously. So even though it's going to be this sort of ridiculous idea, I do want it to have an interesting story, and I want to take the story seriously. So it's definitely going to be a mix of a lot of genres, and I think it's going to work. I mean, it's weird, but I think it'll work. People have also asked me, is this going to be a straight hentai or just ecchi? And I'm not really too sure. I mean, it's definitely going to have ecchi elements. You can't have a comic called Breast Gladiators without having tons of ecchi stuff. Is it going to go full on hentai? I'm not really sure. Even if I do decide to go full hentai with it, I'll definitely make a edited version that has the hentai parts cut out so people have a choice. They could read the hentai version or they could read the edited version, just in case they're turned off by the hentai elements. But yeah, I'm really excited to finish up more artwork and show you guys what I've been working on. And when I get enough stuff completed, I'm going to do a video previewing the comic. So there's that. So this week, I thought it would be pretty cool to talk about Batman Ninja because, Batman has pretty much been in the news a lot lately with the rumors of Michael Keaton coming back as Batman and the announcement of the Snyder Cut of Justice League appearing on HBO Max. Seemed like a good time to talk about Batman. The news of Michael Keaton returning as Batman has definitely got me intrigued. I mean, it does kind of reek of DC running out of ideas, so they're kind of going back to the well. But all in all, I think it's a good move. I mean, honestly, if I had my way, I would cast Michael Keaton and Brandon Routh in an adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. That would be awesome because Keaton is the right age and he has the history with the character, and Brandon Routh is pretty much the heir apparent to the Christopher Reeve Superman. So I think a live action version of The Dark Knight Returns with those two actors would be fucking awesome. I mean, it does kind of suck that Zack Snyder already did a half-ass version of The Dark Knight Returns with Batman v Superman, but I think there's still room for a comic book accurate, faithful version of The Dark Knight Returns. They're probably not going to do it. It would be totally awesome if they did. I'm holding out hope. Maybe they will. They probably won't, but here's hoping. I've also heard some people say they'd like to see Keaton in a live-action version of Batman Beyond, which would definitely be cool. We've reached the point with comic book movies where there's a lot more experimentation and they're doing a lot of different things. So we've certainly reached a point in time where a Batman Beyond film is possible, and I think it would be a refreshing addition to the landscape of comic book films. Even though, if I'm going to be honest, I was never really the biggest Batman Beyond fan. I mean, I enjoy it. I thought it was pretty cool, but I mean, there are people who, like, you mention Batman Beyond and they lose their mind over it. They're like, oh my god, Batman Beyond is fucking awesome. And it's like, yeah, you know, like, I enjoyed it, but I was never like super into it. I mean, it's probably because Batman Beyond came out during a time when I completely lost interest in Batman, but I still think the show is cool, and I'm definitely open to seeing a live action version. I'm also excited to see the Snyder cut of Justice League. I know I'm in the minority here, but I did not hate the theatrical cut of Justice League. I thought as a live action version of the Super Friends, it was perfectly enjoyable. But it will be really cool to finally see Zack Snyder's vision of Justice League realized in all of its glory. Even though I am not a fan of Zack Snyder's DC universe, I mean, it seems like to me, he doesn't seem to really understand the characters or even really like the characters. He seems to have this superficial knowledge of the characters, and he wants to reinvent them into these like overly dark versions. It's funny because I remember once I got into an argument with a guy on Twitter where this guy was telling me like Zack Snyder is the greatest comic book filmmaker ever and all of his comic book movies are the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I said to the dude, like, it doesn't really seem to me like Zack Snyder understands these characters. Then this guy was like, oh really? You don't think he understands the characters? And then he posted a picture of Ben Affleck in the bat suit and a picture of a Jim Lee drawing of Batman. And I was like, motherfucker, I said he doesn't understand the characters. I didn't say he doesn't know what they look like. For some people, a good Batman movie just requires a good Batman suit, but I digress. I know I'm going to sound really crazy here, but I think Sucker Punch is Zack Snyder's best movie. Sucker Punch is also Zack Snyder's only original film, as far as I could think of. And you know, Thelonious Monk said, genius is when you are most like yourself. And that's really what I want to see Zack Snyder do. I want to see Zack Snyder do Zack Snyder stuff. Just make your own crazy shit. Stop trying to adapt other people's works that you seem to not really even give a shit about. Just do your own shit. You know, just do the crazy, stupid shit you love to do. But with all that said, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Zack Snyder's DCEU, even though I think the Zack Snyder Justice League film is probably going to be a disappointment, I'm still excited to see it. And, you know, I think it'll be interesting if nothing else. So anyway, with all that shit said, let's get to Batman Ninja. Now, Batman Ninja came out a while ago. It came out in 2018, and I had not seen it. I had not watched it until recently. The best way to describe Batman Ninja is to like imagine it's like the year 2000 and you were hanging out with your friends, like getting drunk or getting high, and saying to your friend, like, imagine what it would be like if there was a Batman anime. And then your buddy was like, yeah, Batman would be in a mech suit, the Joker would get into a giant fucking robot and start shooting shit, Robin would have like a pet monkey like Chim Chim from Speed Racer, shit would be crazy. And that's exactly what this fucking movie is. It has every anime cliche you could imagine. But it's awesome. It's a fucking awesome movie. It's a crazy fucking movie, but it's awesome nonetheless. The movie basically starts off like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, then turns into A Tale of Two Robots from Robot Carnival, with just giant fucking robots beating the shit out of each other. It's fucking crazy shit. It's worth mentioning that there's kind of two versions of the movie. The English dub isn't an exact translation of the Japanese script. They actually changed a lot of the dialogue in the English dub. The story stays the same, but it changes some of the details. I think they did that mainly because the Joker does a lot of like Japanese cultural references and uses a lot of like Japanese colloquialisms that don't really make sense. There's this one part where the Joker is fighting Batman, and then he says something about like, Batman, you need to pay your taxes, and since you have no money, you have to pay with your life. I'm guessing that's like some kind of Japanese expression. It doesn't make any fucking sense in English, but I'm sure in Japan they get it completely. The movie was written by Kazuki Nakashima, who is best known for his work on Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill, and the director is Junpei Mizusaki, who I'm not really familiar with. It seems like he's done a lot of work in video games, and it makes complete sense because this movie has a complete video game feel. It feels like it feels almost like Arkham Asylum on an acid trip. It is so fucking bonkers. What really makes this movie special is the art style. It's done using CGI. It's not traditionally animated, but this is some of the most unique CGI I've ever seen in anime. It is such a stark contrast to the boring, dull CGI that you see in something like the Godzilla anime trilogy. This really really takes a unique approach to its art direction. A lot of it feels like an ukiyo-e painting, so the backgrounds have this very cool watercolor feel. The sky has this kind of paper texture to it, and it really enhances that atmosphere of making you feel like you're back in ancient Japan. I think the strongest aspect of the visuals are the character designs by Takashi Okazaki. Okazaki, of course, is famous for being the creator of Afro Samurai, and this film takes a lot of inspiration from Afro Samurai. The action sequences definitely feel a lot like Afro Samurai, and even the quiet moments when the characters are just standing there and the wind is blowing really take me back to those days of watching that show. I think Okazaki's designs in this film are incredible. I mean, they actually almost kind of remind me of Daisuke Showatari in the sense that they're just so kind of over the top and ridiculous, but they are strangely simple in some ways too. I mean, a lot of his designs are based on the character designs that you see in the Arkham video games, but he does add these little touches, like Okazaki's Catwoman pretty much looks like Catwoman, but you know, he instead of just giving her a plain domino mask, she has a cat mask that has a little cat nose on it. It's such an awesome touch. Like, it's so badass and cute and sexy, and it fucking works. And you can't help but say to yourself, why don't they draw her like this all the fucking time? This is so cool. Japanese artists are always better at drawing Western characters than Western artists. Think about Bangus's X-Men, you know, in the X-Men versus Street Fighter games or the Marvel versus Capcom games. All he's doing is drawing Jim Lee's X-Men designs. But for whatever reason, Bangus's X-Men just look so much fucking cooler. I don't know why. It's that weird je ne sais quoi of Japanese art. It's always awesome. The Red Hood's design was also really cool. He was basically dressed as a Japanese monk. I think the type of monk is called a komuso, the ones who wear that basket thing on their head. Once again, it's this great touch that you see in a lot of Japanese designs where they take something that you think would not work. You know, having this character dressed as this monk, but it works completely, and it oddly suits the Red Hood. The story to this film doesn't make any fucking sense. The Japanese version seems to make even less sense than the English version. The English version does a good job of trying to take all this crazy shit and put it into something that is coherent and you can go with. This movie is really about spectacle. Don't try to understand the plot because it doesn't make any sense at all. For some reason, I mean, it makes sense that all of the villains got transported back to feudal Japan because Gorilla Grodd built his time machine in Arkham Asylum, so everybody who was in Arkham Asylum got transported back. But somehow Alfred got transported back, Red Robin, Nightwing, Robin, the Red Hood, Catwoman. I mean, everybody was there that night. Everybody gets transported back. And nobody is wondering, like, hey, you know, Batman's here and Robin's here. Why the fuck is Bruce Wayne's butler here? I think Bruce Wayne is Batman. I mean, it doesn't. The story makes no fucking sense. You just gotta go with it. There is a scene in this show where Robin, with his monkey sidekick and the monkey's monkey girlfriend, are playing a flute, and then a whole bunch of monkeys come out of the woods, and then they form into a giant monkey like the fucking Critters and Critters 2, and then they start attacking this giant Joker robot. The movie's insane, but that's what makes it so cool. I think the English voice cast does a really good job. It's pretty much a lot of the same actors from the Arkham games. So you have Robert Craig Smith as Batman, who I think is good. You have Tara Strong as Harley. You have Grey Griffin as Catwoman. I thought it was pretty cool that they brought Will Friedle back to play Red Robin. Will Friedle, of course, plays Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond. It is kind of a shame that he is underused. It's a little weird that you would get somebody like that, a guy who has a history with Batman, and you would just kind of give him this throwaway role. I wish he had been used more. I wish Red Robin was a bigger part of the story, but whatever, it is what it is. And the Joker was played by this dude named Tony Hale, who I am not familiar with. I liked him as the Joker. He was different than Mark Hamill. I like Mark Hamill as the Joker, but quite honestly, I'm getting kind of burnt out of like the Mark Hamill imitators. I mean, I think Troy Baker played the Joker in Arkham Origins, and he was just doing a Mark Hamill impression. And it's like, okay, let's try to do something different with the Joker. And I thought the guy playing the Joker in this film, he definitely worked. He didn't really have the menace of Hamill. Some of the menace came through towards the end, but through most of the movie, he is really fucking goofy and over the top. But it makes sense. It completely makes sense in this movie. It's a movie where the style is the substance. I think a great example of that is there's this scene where the Joker loses his memory and him and Harley Quinn are living their life as farmers in the Japanese countryside. And during that segment, the whole art style changes. The animation style actually reminds me of the Breaking the Habit music video that Studio Gonzo did for Linkin Park. And it makes that scene very, very poignant. If it was animated the same way as the rest of the film was, that scene wouldn't stand out. But because they take a different approach with the animation, it makes that scene very important. Later on in the film, you find out out that the Joker, like, had some plan to lose his memory and regain it back to trick Batman. I don't know, it's fucking convoluted. But because that section of the film is animated differently, it adds this air of credibility to the Joker's story. So if the film didn't have that look, you would just assume the Joker is lying when he said he lost his memory. But because they take a different approach with the animation, there's now a poignancy there. There's now a credibility to what the Joker's saying. So it's a really interesting example of how the style of this film informed the story and how the style is basically the substance of this film. I thought it was really cool how the film is basically a play on the warring states period of Japan, which unfortunately is just never explored. They don't really go into it in detail, where all the different Arkham villains are basically warlords living in Japan, fighting each other. I felt like there was a lot of potential there, and I really wish it was explored more. I would be completely down if they took this Batman ninja and made this into like a 26 episode series. There's a lot you could do with this, and I do appreciate the fact that the movie's a spectacle and it's definitely visually very, very interesting, but it would be cool if they took a little bit more of a serious approach and they explored the story more, and we really had a lot more time to kind of let this story breathe and give the characters more to do. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I can't recommend this enough. I think everybody should check this out. It's one of the most unique Batman films I've ever seen. It's really, really cool. I think the sword fight Batman has with the Joker at the end is a great action sequence, and it's really, really awesome to see this hand-to-hand fight with Batman and the Joker, because most of the times, Batman just beats the shit out of the Joker. So this was definitely interesting to see the Joker as a match for Batman. In this universe, it makes sense. The Joker could hold his own in a sword fight with Batman. So definitely check this film out if you haven't. I don't know what else to say. I guess that's it. I guess I got nothing left to say. Well, once again, thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for coming to the channel. And this is Reverend Paul saying, until we meet again.